Welcome to this June 18th, 9 a.m. Meeting of the Hutchinson City Council. Welcome, and Linda, please call the roll.
Deckent.
Here.
Dave Line.
Here.
Soldner.
Here.
Pyrus de Carvalho.
Here.
Inskeep.
Here.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our prayer today will be offered by Kim Beery. Thank you.
Yes. I invite you to pray with me. God of all life, as the sunrise brightens the day, we are reminded that each day is a gift from you, the source of all light. Help us not squander the gift of today by doing all we can to change ourselves and offer goodness to the world. As we meet today, direct our city leaders, give them wisdom as they work for the good of all. Help us to experience and share your unconditional love. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And I was told, and I confirmed with Kim, there's a rather clever sign, I believe it's outside of her church, that says something to the effect of, if you've been praying for rain, please stop. Start praying for world peace.
Yeah.
So here's the world peace. Thank you, Kim. Next item, please.
Item 4A, a proclamation for Smallville, Kansas.
Very good. Okay, and I think Amy is joining me, and John and others. Superman. All right. And I was also informed shortly before the meeting, too, that June 18th in comic book legend or lexicon is actually Superman's birthday. It coincides when he crashed into Kansas. So welcome. Happy gifts. Cards in the mail. All right. Okay, very fine. Whereas the fictional character Clark Kent, also known as Superman, arrived in Smallville, Kansas in a spaceship during a meteor shower, and whereas the city of Hutchinson and Smallville share many similarities, and whereas the city of Hutchinson has formally recognized these similarities since June 21st, 2013, when Clark Kent/Superman was inducted into the Kansas Hall of Fame, and whereas June 22nd through June 23rd, 2019 marks the 6th anniversary of the Smallville Con, and June 20th to 23rd, 2019 marks the 2nd annual Smallville Festival in downtown Hutchinson. Now, therefore, I, David A. Inskeep, Mayor of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, do hereby proclaim that June 20th through the 23rd, 2019, the City of Hutchinson be known as Smallville, Kansas, the home of Clark Kent. See, in witness here whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas to be fixed this 18th day of June 2019. I will give this to you. Actually, sign it later. And anybody who wants to speak, please.
Good morning. I'm Amy Conkling, Director of Marketing and Development with Hutchrec, and I will speak on behalf of the Smallville Festival that's taking place this third Thursday, June 20th. We just want to thank the City Council for your support, and we're excited because the Smallville Festival is actually a celebration of our town, Smallville, officially now. We partnered with the great existing event of Third Thursday, and we're expecting a couple thousand in downtown Hutchinson to come for several featured events and Third Thursday activities as we celebrate our town. A lot of grit, a lot of determination, and celebrating our residents before we turn it over, and we invite visitors from all over to enjoy the Smallville Con. So we'd just like to thank you for your support of this festival. It's something that our community wants, and as the recreation provider, we are happy to provide our city and their residents.
I'm John Robinson from Smallville Con. I'm usually Batman or someone else usually here, but today I just went with the suit jacket today. We're happy to be back again, and thankful to all you guys for going along and renaming the town again. And it makes it a little more special for all the outside fans coming in. we're happy to have Bretson Young actually sponsor us too and help us bring in Brandon Routh to the show this year. He's going to be a great guest. We've had a lot of calls from outside people wanting to come to town and see him, so looking for a pretty packed show over the weekend. We've also got Judith Hogue from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Claudia Christian from Babylon 5, Skyrim, a lot of video games. Claudia and Stacy have both. Stacy Hayduke, she was Lana Lane in Superboy on TV, and she's been in Sequest, a lot of All My Children, any of the soap operas she watched. Neo Edmond, Power Rangers, and Maya Kane, who's a Hutchinson native, kind of made it out there on In Pursuit with Joe Walsh and John Walsh, and now he's coming back home to kind of talk about his experiences of trying to make it big in Hollywood. We've got lots of artists, creators, vendors, well over 130 different vendor booths, and we'll have my dragon there too as well, at least part of it. Jabba the Hutt, a bunch of stuff for photo ops. So. And the celebrities will be there both days, taking photographs with fans and signing autographs. So we encourage everybody to come out and check it out, and you won't be disappointed. So.
Super.
Thank you.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm kind of here on a celebration aspect on both parts, festival and the Smallville Con. But I want to say thank you to Mayor Inskeep, city council members, all the people who have made the celebration week possible. In November of 2017, I was approached by Jessica Kelly with Hutchinson Police Department about joining some other superheroes and visiting a young boy with cancer, Gabe Marshall. He was a huge fan of comics and superheroes, and it was an honor to get to visit with him, even for a short time, as unfortunately he lost his battle with cancer in February of last year. He was a true superhero, and I think anyone that met him would think so. And his spirit lives on, especially this week. Okay, this is really why I think we do a lot of what we do. It's because of what this means to people. And I think that Gabe would be very proud and have a lot of fun. I'm also honored to be here for this wonderful proclamation. I'm excited for the festivities scheduled for this weekend, beginning with the Smallville Festival that was incredible last year, and it's going to be incredible again this year. A lot of excitement. And then the Smallville Con this weekend, which the Robinsons, they don't get enough credit for what they've done over the last 6 years and how much money and interest they brought into the city just for this short week. I mean, it takes them all year to plan this. And it's a 2-day event that really, I think, opens the world's eyes to Hutchinson and what it's about. Chris Wietrich's here. He's kind of one of the people who started this whole thing, so a big thank you to him. And I'll wrap it up. I just want to say that this is much more than just a third Thursday event or a convention. It's really a celebration of community. It gives the community a chance to come together for these events and put us on the map. And like the fictional town of Smallville, Kansas, we too possess those values of community, collaboration, quality leadership, respect and fairness, because Hutchinson's not really a small town, it's a strong town. Some might say super town. I do want to say, unfortunately, there are those in the community that will find a way to spin the proclamation, because they can spin anything. They spin the entire celebration in negative light, whether it be comments on social media, that this is just a waste of time, a waste of resources, or a silly idea altogether. Grow up is basically what they're going to say. But I believe it's safe to say a lot of these people will never be happy, especially as long as they have the ability to type. And they simply just don't understand the amount of tourism, publicity, and opportunity this celebration adds to our city, and all the businesses that choose to get involved. If you look around what people are doing, it's amazing. You see Smallville billboards, you see Smallville signs on the digital billboards. people really getting involved. There's a ton of vendors at the festival and the con that will be really helping open eyes to the businesses in town. So I think I just want to applaud you, City Council, for continuing to do this despite any criticism that there is. I'd like to commend everyone else in the community that still takes the risk because they know what this means to the town and they know how much this can do. But I really just want to say thank you to everyone. It's going to be a great time. I hope to see everyone out there. Please stop by, bring your kids. The sight of their face kind of reminds me of what it was like with Gabe, to see, you know, they know something special is happening, and so hope we get that same spirit this week. Thanks.
I pretty much just reiterate what Superman said. I always stay in Batman character, but we've reconciled our differences. No, but I was just at a meeting last night with some of us about with the Lieutenant Governor Lynn Kelly. So I had a little time to chat with him a little bit, you know, about some things, and also about the Smallville, you know, and he gets it. You know, the people from out of town, out of state, and internationally, they get what it means to have a place called Smallville, and so we continue to draw. And oh, sorry, I meant Lieutenant Governor Kelly Rogers. Yeah, okay. So anyway, so but you know, he realized what it means, and I just want to thank too Tony Finley, because it's actually the Smallville Festival and the Robinson family doing the Smallville Con, and I helped bring them together so that we can have that 4-day weekend, and so that's another, you know, just thing of all of us working together to put this on. Also, too, remember that on Friday night we have the actor Brandon Routh coming to town, so there will be a showing of Superman Returns, is what Brandon Routh was the character Superman. So that showing Friday night will be at the Fox Theater on Friday night. So come and see the movie, and then Saturday you'll be able to see the Superman Brandon Routh at the con for Saturday and Sunday. So again, thanks to council for supporting this.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you all for the work you put into this, and,
Yep.
and to Bretson Young as well for sponsoring.
Amy asked me why I wasn't wearing a costume, and I didn't have an answer at the time, but now I'm saying I came as Clark Kent, and when I take off my glasses, it's a passing resemblance to Ethan. Very passing. See you guys. Thank you so much.
Good try, Jay.
You know, it's a stretch.
Good story.
Yeah, looks like I've been eating kryptonite or something. Compared the two, before after. Okay, very good. Next item, if you would, please.
Item 5, oral communications from the audience.
Very good. This is the portion again of the meeting where we invite those that have something they want to address to the city council to go ahead and approach the podium, announce your name and your address. Please limit your conversation to 5 minutes and to items that are not currently on the agenda. I'll open it up at this time. Here we go. We got to take her.
Good morning, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. For the record, my name is Ryan Vietluk, Director of Planning and Development here with the city. Just a reminder that the city is in the process of soliciting homeowner and landlord pre-applications in both the Southwest Bricktown and the Allen, soon to be known as Creekside neighborhood. This is for to gauge interest on what areas of those neighborhoods there may be some interest in doing some improvements to the homes. The city is intending to apply for a CDBG grant, and that's a huge component of it. Applications, we need pre-applications back by Friday. We've been out in the community for about the last 2 weeks asking homeowners and landlords if they have any interest in it. There's information on the city website, on social media. There's fillable forms as well. We really want to try to get a good group of applications because that's a huge part of the evaluation process that the state looks at when we put in this application. The intent would be that probably target about an area of about 75 homes, and out of that probably do between 20 and 25 different projects. These are projects that are intended to kind of extend the life of a housing unit. So you'd be looking at doing things like new plumbing, new electrical, staying away from a lot of like the cosmetic things. I mean, a homeowner would have opportunity to have some design choice in that, but the intent really is to kind of improve and extend the life of a housing unit. And we can partner with some of our other partners, SCED, with their weatherization program and things like that to hopefully extend that money a little bit further. There are some income requirements, and all that information is on those forms. Landlords, there's a 25% required match as well. A homeowner, though, if they meet the requirements, there is no required match for them. So the intent is that we would gather these applications, kind of map out where we're located, submit an application, and then we would tend to hear back probably sometime early in 2020, and probably start work sometime in about this time next year. So this is a fairly long process. It's a beginning process, but we'll be continuing to do neighborhood outreach to those two featured neighborhoods. And then hopefully the intent is the state's kind of going away from these larger areas. They want to go with these small areas that it's a little bit more focused, and we can hopefully see some real benefits. And then hopefully the intent is if we have a lot of interest that we would then apply and reapply in a couple of years and kind of begin a methodical process of really helping these residents, partnering with them to improve their homes. So with that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ryan. A couple questions.
Yes.
Are you seeing the applications coming in?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right now, a little bit of maybe neighborhood competition here, but Creekside is leading. We are getting some applications from Southwest Bricktown as well. So if Southwest Bricktown is interested, please feel free to reach out to the Planning and Development Department. We want to kind of maybe make a little bit of a neighborhood competition.
Sure, absolutely. Competition usually breeds good
Absolutely.
results. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Also, with our most recent rains and potential for more rain, would foundational repairs, basement, crack sealing, waterproofing, would that fall within the realm of the grants?
It might. There is kind of a fairly strict list, and we're partnering with SCED. They're the ones who typically kind of help us with the grant administration, and they're the ones who are very familiar with the projects that are allowed. But typically that type of stuff is typically allowed. The intent is, once again, to really extend the usable life of these homes.
Right.
And so, yeah, you would be looking at more foundation, more
I would think that
mechanical
would fall
issues, things
without
like
knowing
that.
that it might,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
What do the amounts per home tend to be?
Typically, these programs have target about $20,000 to $25,000 worth of repairs. Certainly, if we have some landlords with that 25%, we can really extend that money a little bit further. But yeah, usually a grant's about $200,000, and then usually it kind of targets right around $20,000 to $25,000 a unit. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ryan, you mentioned that it's there are income guidelines or requirements. How does that apply to the landlord-owned dwellings?
So the landlord, that's going to be based on the rent. If it's under the median rent in the community, then that is how those are judged. And then there is basically something that says once those improvements are done, they have to commit that they will keep the rent at the same rate for a certain number of years. Basically, like kind of a silent second mortgage, basically, that would be placed on the unit. And the intent is, once again, that certainly don't want to have somebody in a situation of where their rental unit is being improved and then they're priced out of that unit. So we want to ensure that this is a component of the affordable housing that the city's looking at focusing on in these neighborhoods.
Very good. Any other questions of staff? Or? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it. Thanks for the update. Any others? Going once, going twice. Sold. Next item, please.
Item 6, consent agenda.
I have a correction on the minutes. I guess on the second last page under report of city officials. I I talked about the Strong Towns presentation that's happening this evening. It's referenced to be occurring at Stringer Fine Arts. It's not Stringer, but rather the Hutchinson Arts Center.
This is the first time since I've been here we've had a correction of the minutes, and I say that for a reason, because Paul was out. I was in charge of reviewing the minutes. And apparently I missed that, so I apologize.
Well, no apology necessary. I may have just said Arts Center when I announced it. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to be clear to anybody who might take a look at those that it is at the Hutchinson Arts Center this evening at 6 o'clock.
That actually was a test for Steve, and he passed. He caught that, so good on him.
Oh, goodness.
All right, very good. So I guess
I must have read them, huh?
Yeah, that's it. I'm saying.
Yeah.
Good catch. Any other items with the consent agenda or a motion?
I move the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho?
Yes.
Inskeep.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7A, consider resolution establishing the Hutchinson Reno County Arts and Humanities Council.
Good morning, Rebecca Starkey-Kiesling, Director of Public Information and Community Engagement. And I'm here to talk about the Hutchinson Reno County Arts and Humanities Council. Quick background, the Reno County Arts and Humanities Council was originally established in 1990. Its original role was to promote cultural, social, and economic aspects of the community, enhance the quality of life of citizens, provide planning, financial support, services, and development for the arts, humanities, and activities, organizations, and artists. It's a lot. Originally, membership was limited to 9 members who support those efforts, but were not current members of any existing art agency board of directors. Over the years, the Cultural Commission has gone through a lot of changes. The name was changed to the Hutchinson Reno County Arts and Humanities Council. Membership has been increased to up to 20 members, requiring a minimum of 6 persons representing agencies which are annually funded through the Cultural Activities Fund, which it administers. The requirement to formulate and implement a cultural community plan, or a community cultural plan, was also removed. While the council remains under the City of Hutchinson, its appointments have not been made by the mayor and council since 2012. Over the years, there have been issues with communication, organization, and transparency. And based on conversations with community stakeholders, we believe now is the time to reorganize and revitalize the HRAH in order to better serve its original purpose. The attached resolution to establish the Hutchinson Reno County Arts and Humanities Council limits the membership to 7 members, 5 members residing in the city, 2 members residing outside in Reno County. Members of the council cannot be current members of any existing art or humanities agency board of directors. The resolution also provides updated language on its purpose. It requires timely submission of budget requests to the city and the county, and includes a requirement to develop, implement, and regularly update a program plan. So, with that, do you have any questions? Or?
Very good. Thank you, Rebecca.
I do. This has been a long time coming. I'm so happy to see this happening, but I'm still a little confused as to what the central organization of the entity is. Is it one of the boards under the city? Is it still associated with the Art Center? Who has responsibility for submitting that program? Is it just the 7 people that we appoint?
It's going to come back under the city. So it will go back to where what it originally should have been: open meetings,
Okay.
scheduled minutes,
Great.
a lot more accountability and transparency. We are looking to contract someone to oversee that, like we
Okay.
used to with Mark. So there will be someone going handling the day-to-day operations, but it will all be under the city and accountable to the city.
Great. So not necessarily a city employee, but
Correct.
somebody we contract with.
Yeah.
And so we can see appointments to that body as soon as the summer, or?
Perhaps we've not worked out exactly how those appointments are going to happen. I would assume we're going to give people who are currently serving an opportunity to apply. But again, a lot of those are organizations that are currently funded, and because of that potential conflict of interest, we're taking that requirement out.
Great. Great, so there'll just be efforts to communicate to the public if you're interested in serving.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Much like any other board, the application
Yeah.
process, describing
Yes.
what you lend to the organization. So
And,
on.
and once we contract out that service, they will probably bring those recommendations to us as well.
So we'd still see the same budget that we have that is allocated for events like Cinco de Mayo.
Yes.
Emancipation Day.
Depending. They would still, annually, they would make the recommendations for what those would be.
Okay.
The organizations that are currently funded will no longer be part of the board, but we are highly encouraging them to remain engaged and go to the meetings and be involved in those decisions. They'll just no longer be able to vote on their own funding.
Yeah.
What is the amount of that line item budget annually?
60-something, isn't
30,
it?
for this, Arts and Humanities Council is $34,000.
34,000?
Yeah, 34,600.
That's distributed to the various,
Various.
Well,
That
no,
is
that,
the
that's
operating.
different.
That's different. That's like
That's
40
two
or
different.
something.
So that 34,600 is the operational side that we're talking about right now.
okay?
The Cultural Activities Fund is right at $40,000, and that's the money that's allocated to all the
Okay.
different groups.
So it's about
Two-
75.
I
Really
got
two
you.
pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll
Yeah.
finally get this someday.
No, it's, yeah.
It's a little confusing.
Where, John, follow up on the 34,000 that you first referenced.
Right.
How is that utilized or expected to be
That-
utilized?
That's basically operational side of things, and previously, we've contracted with Mark Reset and that group, and that's been a separate funding arrangement that
Okay.
goes to them. We see the budget, so that money is used for some of their operations, some of their programming that they do, and so as we go forward, the plan is then to enter into a management agreement with Hutch Rec to do essentially what was
With
being
Hutch
done
Rec,
before.
I
Yeah.
see.
Rather than
Oh.
an individual.
Right, and that will happen probably at
Okay.
our next meeting. We just wanted to get this step
I get you.
first.
And
so.
I assume we'd have some delineation of where that 34,000 or how that 34,000, I know you said operations, but I mean, we'll have some breakdown of that.
Yeah, we'll have and even in the past, we've after several requests, had a budget that showed how their funds were being expended. One of the missing links that we're trying to find out is how much money is in those accounts now that might be city funds and how that's transferred to this operation. But we're still working through those details. I know talking with Tony Finley, they plan, and Andrea's planning to be a part of that, Andrea. Sorry. To kind of meet with the stakeholder groups is talk about going forward what this might look like. It's still it's an advisory board of the city council. You'll make the appointments. You'll provide the funding, at least the local funding. There'll be other private funds that they'll raise. We're just really trying to bring it back into more of an organized.
I think this is a step in
it's
the right direction, and Hutch Rec has proven time and time again that they are the experts at programming. And so looking forward to positive changes and getting the word out about these really awesome events to more people. So hopefully they're better supported and enjoyed by everyone. So thanks for your work on this, Rebecca.
Oh, no problem. And
Is there any county participation financially? Since
Yes.
there is.
I don't have the line item for what they participate, but two of the 7 members would be selected by the county.
Okay.
The county contributes $7,000 per
So
year.
there is some
Yeah.
county.
Okay.
Is that part of the 40, that's above and beyond the 44, or whatever you said we?
34.5 that we give, the county gives 7
They
on
give
top of that.
41.
Basically, we're putting in a little less than $80,000, and then the county's adding
Yeah.
another 7.
Because really, the Cultural Activities Fund is really just a whole separate from this. It's just that over the years, rather than have that group come before here, the 9 or 10 agencies requesting funding, we've asked this council or this advisory board to hear, the budget request and then make a recommendation to the council, which has worked very well.
So the county's contribution is towards the operations side?
Right.
Oh, okay, and that's above and beyond the 30,
The
34.
34.5,
that
yeah.
we put in.
So there'd be a total of about 42
41, 42.
operationally.
plus whatever they're able to raise. I don't have their budget, but whatever they raise privately.
One of their
Right.
activities is also to raise funds. One thing that this resolution also does is include not just in the instead of having it in the bylaws, it includes in the resolution that they're required to put together an annual program plan so that we see where those operational monies and program funds are going.
Good.
Have you talked with the county about their having the responsibility or opportunity to appoint two individuals?
That already
Yeah.
exists.
Is that part
in
of
the
already,
current
It
it's
plan-
exists
already part of
today.
the existing? I see.
Yes.
And I've
Okay.
spoken with Gary about the change from 20 plus or whatever it was down to a manageable number, and that they would see, what is it, 3?
Yeah, they had 3 that they appointed before, now they'll appoint 2.
Good too.
Yeah.
Well, I think Jade has already made several comments, but the bringing the number smaller, more manageable, and also that folks of a vested interest or would have a conflict not being on the Humanities Council is a very good change as well. So I think overall, excellent moves.
All right. So I believe there's an action.
I would move to approve the resolution establishing the Hutchinson Reno Arts and Humanities Council and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
And before we call the roll, I might just ask, is there anybody else that wanted to contribute or add anything to the conversation? Oh, there is one party.
You gotta come up.
If you please approach the podium and give your name.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
I'm Lavella Kelly. I just have a question. Will the director of this program be a paid position?
That will be.
Part-time, a full-time?
That will be really a decision of the Hutchinson Recreation Commission. We're going to contract with them. How they manage the employee is really going to be their call. My understanding is that they plan to utilize a part-time individual for that.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Good question.
Okay.
Thanks, Lavella.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Very fine. Please call the roll if you would.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave-Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Tyros de Carvalho?
Yes.
Inskeep.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 7B, consider ordinance amending ordinance 2017-18 to pay the costs of substitute improvements.
Good morning, Justin
Morning.
Combs, Director of Parks and Facilities. So this item is for basically the redistribution and reallocation of funds for the Orchard Park Pavilion. I want to just step back a little bit and walk through the history real briefly. Back in August of 2018, we originally bid an enclosed shelter. Bids were significantly over budget. We went back to work, modified the drawings, bid that project again. And then in March of 2019, rejected those bids for a second time. We'd made some progress towards that budget, but ultimately we really failed to get it on budget. Also at that meeting in March, then, we discussed exploring some alternatives to using the funds, alternatives to an enclosed building, looking at open air, as well as other projects we could possibly use those funds for. And so then I followed up in a study session on May 9th where we discussed those options. I had a presentation. I laid out 5 or 6 options, and we had a lengthy discussion about kind of the best way to proceed. So today I'm really just presenting and finalizing kind of the consensus we came up with that day. So my proposal is that $390,000 would remain in the project account for Orchard Park. The current project balance is $771,175. So of that, we would keep $390,000 for the open air pavilion. That breaks down to $270,000 for the actual purchase and construction of the shelter itself, $70,000 to complete the parking lot, and then $50,000 for utilities. Utilities and site work. The shelter will have an attached restroom, so we do need to provide sewer, water, and electric to the shelter, as well as provide sidewalks to the shelter. So that's the additional 50 is for the site work and the utilities, and then again $70,000 for the completion of the parking lot. If you've been out there recently, the parking lot really just kind of ends. So this would provide a few more parking stalls, some ADA dedicated stalls for the pavilion. So that brings that number to 390, excuse me. So then the proposal is that we would transfer $381,175 to the Fund Valley Improvement Funds. As we talked about, then those funds would be divided up between two projects, approximately $200,000 for the restroom remodel, which would remodel all 4 restrooms on the main structure, 2 men's and 2 women's. Again, approximately $200,000 for that. And then the balance, approximately $181,000 would be used towards funding the bleacher replacement at Fund Valley. The budget for that is $750,000, so we would just bond the difference between the $181,000 and the $75,000. So in order to accomplish all this, we have to amend the ordinance that was adopted back in 2017 that allocated the funding, the bond funds. That ordinance is Ordinance 2718. So it is my recommendation to modify that ordinance and proceed as I've outlined. If we have any questions about the actual financial side, Angela's worked with our bond counsel and can answer any of those questions. On the project side, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions.
Justin, what's your current thinking? Here a month or so ago, you had outlined a potential vendor for what I think you refer to as a kit project. Are you still thinking in that direction or otherwise?
Yeah, all these costs are based off that same pavilion we looked at.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the most economical way to get a kit built with attached restrooms with the quality we want, with the laminated beams, with stone ramp columns, to really have a nice shelter. They're by far the most economical choice.
How solid or how convinced are you that the 390 is good and
I
going
have
to cover?
double and tripled and
Yeah.
quadrupled checked. I've been here
Yeah.
too many times.
Yeah.
Too many times with that. One thing, since we did bid the project, I have a hard number for the parking lot, and I have a hard number for the site work. I reduced the site work down a little bit. So the $70,000 and the $50,000 I'm really comfortable with. And then I got the cost directly from the manufacturer for the purchase of the kit as well as the construction.
And being that it's a kit, it has all the amenities, like you said, that you wanted. And so, yeah, that should be a
Yeah.
fixed figure. I get where you come from. That sounds solid. Okay.
Again, is this the final phase of Orchard Park, or are there subsequent phases?
The master plan does call for one additional phase. I have never put that final phase in any budgets I've asked for. The final phase is for an amphitheater and a labyrinth and a second playground, kind of a nature-based playground in that island that's created by the road loop. There was just never much interest in that final phase.
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, this will be the final phase.
This will be the final phase. Very good.
I think it'll button it up nicely. Like I said, I kind of forgotten there was a 4th phase, and what we learned from our green place study and all that stuff about where we need to allocate funds. I'm not sure it's the amphitheater up there necessarily. So, this would be a good way to button up that park. It sounds like.
Justin, we put you through the ringer on this one, and just want to say we appreciate you bobbing and weaving and finding a solution that works for our budget. So thanks.
Justin, when talking about the restrooms at Fund Valley, you used the word approximately a couple of times.
Yep.
If it takes two and a quarter or 250,000, how will that come out of the 181, or how would you cover anything more than 200,000 for the restrooms?
Several years ago, we bonded a project, Fund Valley Improvements, which we used for multiple things. That's how we painted the structure. We put a roof on, do several things. So all this money would be put into that account, which would give us a flexibility as long as we use the money for Fund Valley Improvements. I have had a local contractor look at the bid for and give me an estimate for the restroom remodel. The reason I used the word estimate or approximate, his number is actually a little bit cheaper than 200,000, but there's one unknown in the plumbing we won't know until we open it up. So I'm actually pushing that number up a little bit. If anything, the number should be a little bit lower than the 200. And if it is, that just gives us more towards the bleacher project.
How much do you have in that? I forget the title you applied to it. The bond that we passed several years ago for Fund Valley. There's still some money's left in that.
If there is, it's probably less than about $5,000.
Oh, okay. So
we've almost depleted that.
Oh, okay.
Well, this has been kind of a fast track, the Fun Valley bleachers. I think we started talking about this in 2013. So we've really moved along pretty good, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's time.
And on the Fun Valley bleachers, I am working with an architect. We got final drawings back last week, and there was one revision I asked them to make to the specs. Should receive those back any day. So assuming we proceed today, then I can proceed with bidding that project.
So is this a fall project installation? Or
Yes, yeah, both of the, yeah, talking with Hutchinson, they do have a tournament in October. And so basically after that tournament in October, we have the entire facility from October until really February, to when the junior college starts playing.
Okay, sounds good.
Good.
By the way, I accepted your invitation to go take a look at the usage level of the parking lot. I didn't make it out during the week, but I made it out during the tournament. It's
That was
probably, I guess,
Tony's invitation.
oh, that's right. Excuse me. Is Tony out in the garden? Yeah, sorry, Tony.
Credit where credit's due. He's just happy you went.
Aren't they interchangeable in some way?
What'd you find?
It's probably about 75% full, and of course a lot of grass parking, and a lot of water filled spots that weren't used because of the water. I would imagine all of the parking could have been done on the graveled surface, whatever I should call it. But yeah, it was full. Of course, is that your largest tournament? No.
Well, we would consider normal now.
That's a normal now, but it was. Yeah, it was well filled. So just wanted to comment on that since we're talking about Fun Valley as part of this.
Well, and to dovetail with that, I guess, the Fun Valley Improvement Project account, that is an open account. Is that something we can look to feed to budget towards parking lot improvements?
Well, we have that 1%
We have
bed
that
tax
1%.
allocated to Hobart and
Yep.
Fun Valley now.
Recreation-related.
And I think the plan was to use that maybe to fund this balance of the bleachers. That's something we're going to be
Balance of the
coming
bleachers.
back.
I get
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Okey-dokey.
Okay.
Thank you, Justin. Anything, anybody from the audience want, not pushing you, Tony, if you have okay. Negative. But anybody else want to comment on what we're looking at the moment? If not, is there a motion?
I'd move to approve ordinance amending ordinance number 2017-18 of the City of Hutchinson, Kansas, relating to certain public improvements and the issuance of general obligation bonds pursuant to Charter Ordinance number 50 of the city, and authorizing the cost of such improvements to be financed by the city general obligation refunding and improvement bonds, Series 2017-A, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave-Line?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyrus de Carvalho?
Yes.
Inskeep?
Yes. Next item, please.
Item 8A, consider South Main Street striping plan.
All right. Who's talking? Jeff.
A little slow here, sorry.
You're good. You're good.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Jeff Peterson, Director of Engineering. As of late, the arterial street maintenance project got approved this spring and is currently underway in different parts of the community. It's just a maintenance, milling and overlaying streets, and then for Main Street, it'll be more of a ultra-thin bonded asphalt layer, as well as East 30th Avenue. It's kind of come up that there's been some interest to discuss some potential change in the striping on South Main. The original design is just keeping the striping as it is, since this is mainly just a maintenance project. So it's not major upgrades, just what we kind of do to extend the life of the paving we have now. So, and there's been discussions to change it to something similar like Avenue A, which means 2 directional lanes and 1 turn lane with bicycle lanes on the outsides, as well as parallel parking. So that'd be one option. Changing the striping wasn't really considered when we put this together, since it was a maintenance project, and the bike and ped master plan actually indicated Washington Street was potentially the, well, I went the wrong way. Washington Street was part of the planned bicycle network, so that's kind of how we phased it and wanted to move forward. And we have recommend, I mean, I continue to recommend that we kind of keep the striping plan as it is. But with that, we're opening it up to some discussion and some questions if you have them. And I may not have all the answers, but at least we can kind of mull it around a little bit. So.
Well, let me jump in, since I think I'm the one that initiated
Okay.
this in the conversation with the city manager. And, you know, maybe it comes from spring has come here and we're into summer, and my wife and I have started doing our leisure biking, and we go down Main Street towards Cary Park a good part of the time. And one of the things I noticed is, I don't think well, it's a raceway. We've got 4 lanes and no signals of any kind from Avenue A all the way to Cary Park. And I'm amazed at how rapidly, and I'm sure the mayor could speak much better to this than I, who travels a number of our city streets. But
Right.
that was one of the things that struck me. The other is, since we approved this, and it was in the budget from a year ago, we had the Strong Towns presentation last October. We've got the follow-up to that, so to speak, this evening. And so my thinking about Strong Towns and utilization of city streets, and there being people places for gathering, and not simply all of them being raceways or being travel points between A and B. It just struck me that I question, do we have a need for 4 lanes on South Main Street? And my answer to that is I don't think so. And I know that we've got the Washington Boulevard, but my guess is we're years. If it took us 6 to get bleachers, I wonder how long it's going to take us to get the Washington Boulevard bikeway all the way down there. That it would give us an area for bike lanes. Essentially, that would almost connect with Avenue A, which has bike lanes, and make a nice path to Cary Park. This was held up by the mayor, and part of this also talked about how the utilization of Cary Park is not in a preponderance by the folks who live in the south part of town. So I would hope, those were the thoughts that I was having. Now, I wasn't looking towards a parallel parking, although that would probably be simpler. And I'm not proposing this as an alternative, but if there needs to be an alternative, if the amount of parking is an issue, I was thinking we'd take the angle parking, move it out by using, I'm not sure what you call them,
Just
parking
bumper
blocks,
stops or-
bumper
yeah.
stops, and create create a bike lane right next to the sidewalk area. But anyway, that was my thinking. That was the why. I wish I'd had it before we were this far along in the project, but I didn't, and so I wanted to raise it and for us to consider. I think it's an opportunity. We're only striping. We're not tearing up or changing curbs and gutters for the purpose of this. We'd simply be restriping. Now, I assume it's going to have to be restriped anyway because of the work.
Restriping actually is included in all the portions of the project,
Right.
not even
So
just
it's a matter
south
of
it.
doing the striping differently from what it exists today. And I think it would be a dramatic improvement to that part of Main Street, and also give us some sense of the narrowing of Main Street using that portion. And again, I think make it a more person-friendly street down in that part of Maine. That was my thinking.
There's some commentary in the Strong Towns message and others that commerce doesn't happen at 30 miles an hour. It happens at a slower speed. So by introducing alternate means of transportation, making it friendly for those alternate means of transportation, it would create a corridor that is not a place people drive through, but maybe drive to. And maybe that could help spur things too. I'm with you. I offered the parallel parking because I just didn't know if the alternate method that you were suggesting would require some additional infrastructure changes, parking barriers, bull rails, the little reflectors that stick up or something to protect the lane or whatever. But there's alternatives. I did have the occasion I even wrote it in this morning, and I wrote it when it was when there was a lot more of the construction. The construction's still going on, but they had the center.
Yeah, we've been raising valve boxes at places, so
And at that
so we
point-
just had to kind of keep people off of those locations.
Perfect. And at that point, it essentially became a 2-lane road, and I was not hindered in my automobile nor on my bicycle. So I didn't feel it was a hindrance or slowed me down any. There are no traffic signals or stop signs or anything like that. So it would just be, again, a constant speed going through there. As I rode in this morning, and somebody have to help me with the math a little bit, but I counted on the east side 101, and most were faded, but stripes. And so I think that would equate to, well, a little less than 100 parking stalls on just the east side of the street. There'd be a comparable amount, and there's curb cuts and things like that on the west side. It just seems like maybe it's overbuilt, 4 lanes.
Well, it used to be the state highway through.
Can you talk to me about, because I've been down there and I've been going back and forth on this. I think it was really good thing that you brought it up for conversation, Steve. The traffic off the bridge, that's what scares me about the bike lane. And how would that look, Jeff?
I haven't even went there yet at this point.
Okay.
I think the bike lane would stop right before that intersection, essentially.
Okay.
And there's a stop sign coming off the bridge. So
Yeah.
they're required to look both ways for
But going
cars,
onto the
bikes,
bridge
whatever.
is just a
Yeah,
merge
just
and
a-
go.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you-
There's also an access point to the bike path.
Yes.
Right there on the immediate north side
Yes.
of the bridge.
Right.
And then the other reason I thought this might be worth considering is we talk about Washington Street being the bike boulevard, but if you're approaching from the east, how do you, what is the route now if you want to go to Cary Park? John, did you tell me you have to go all the way down to G?
Well, the way that this is showing, it goes Washington all the way down to G, then it goes over, I think it's G over to Adams, and then
Yeah.
straight down into the levee.
JP Martinez
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, it will connect into that eventually.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you stay on Washington, it eventually
Dead
runs
ends.
into the
Into Midwest.
Midwest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's got a lot of advantages, but the main concerns I have are, well, one, that bridge. 2, there hasn't been any efforts to gain input from the business owners in that area, and this would probably be seen as a significant upheaval. And 3, absolutely, I don't want angled parking if there's bikes on the road. I think it has to go to parallel, which will reduce the amount of
We have
spots.
Tyson along there, which
I did speak
Major
with the
portion of that.
operations manager yesterday. He expressed significant concern, but he would say that needs to go up higher than him. Their employee parking is in front and on the sides, basically. They have there's a parking lot to the south they don't own. I mean, they've got some people.
And remind me what street that's on?
That would be F.
F north from Main
Yeah.
Street. It's like that block north of Avenue F and Main.
But we haven't communicated with, there's an auto parts store across the street.
There's a couple churches that are actually located along there also.
Quite a few of those actually have their own parking on the side streets,
Yeah.
not just street parking, but also have like the auto parts store has 6
Some
or
of them,
7
yeah.
spots on the side street. And I noticed quite a few of the other
And then there's a
businesses have those
salon
as well.
up as we get closer to.
Yeah, between C and D.
I'm not saying I'm not advocating for accepting the status quo because it's hard and it's going to take more work. But I think it's going to take more work before we change I think it would be ill-advised to vote on this striping plan without input from those
Well,
churches.
and we have a limited amount of time. We really have to know by July 4th because they got to order the materials, and they order the materials for all the striping at once for the whole community for the whole
Well,
entire project. So we're getting pretty close to that. And
We do have one more meeting.
We do
before
have
July
another
4th.
another meeting, and I know that's ridiculous, 2 weeks, but if this is something that's going to change the look of the street for years.
And that would take us some time to actually, once we change it, we still have some time to get it, we have to get it drawn up for them and things like that. It's going to take a little bit. It's not just decide and change.
Well, I apologize for being late and bringing up the idea, but kind of tagging, at least my opinion, I think it's a change worth making or worth considering. I agree, we need to give some opportunity for some public input. But if there's work required, then so be it. I know I also talked with the city manager about Third Street, which is a year or two down the road, so we'll have plenty of out time to talk about it. But I think we've got an opportunity, and if there's some work, I apologize for the extra work or the
Oh,
rush
that's
on the
fine.
work
I
if
mean,
we
it's
have to get there.
I'm just saying, it's gonna take a little bit of
But I
time to
think
get
that
it
it's,
changed. We
it's
kinda-
worth, if we think it's worth doing, I think it's worth doing now.
We have a dearth of opportunities to make
and-
changes like this.
Yeah.
So it only comes up every few years.
Correct.
Hey, Jeff, speak a little bit relating to the traffic engineering part of this. As I understand your concept, Steve, okay, there'd be the existing sidewalk, and I'm thinking on the west side of the street by Tyson. There's an existing sidewalk there. Then you'd put a bike lane, and then you would install these temporary parking blocks.
Well, I think Dave's idea is probably better. Maybe I should have not even mentioned that. I think we'd go
I
to
see
parallel
some problems
parking.
with that one, with maintenance in the winter and
Yeah.
debris and things like that, and street sweeping and snow removal.
And snow plows.
And
The only-
plus maintaining parking blocks that we don't have in the project to start
Yeah.
off with.
Yeah.
There's a
Biggest
whole
challenge-
host of things that I see as problematic unless we actually fully vet everything.
Biggest
The only
challenge
good
there
part
is-
about that would be to maintain the existing amount of parking, whereas you bring all those negatives. I think the parallel parking is probably a better idea, so it would look like Avenue A.
Yeah. I think the
Parking at the
challenge-
curb and a bike lane next to the parking area, and then the traffic lane, or the 3 traffic lanes until you get to the other side of the street.
Are there some bulb outs being built now?
Actually, the bulb outs go into the side streets. They don't really come
They
out
go into the side streets?
And
Okay.
it's not really bulb outs being made, it's more for the ADA requirements when we do these types of projects. We have to
Yeah.
upgrade ADA access. We do this on all of our yearly maintenance projects when we do those, where we see needs, we try to upgrade those as they're required.
I think
Okay,
the challenge, Steve, with your thought is that, and I know you've kind of moved off that, is the bike lane would be up to the curb, and you know how our streets kind of transition into the curb
Yeah.
gutter.
The curb and
It's
gutter is really uneven
It's
along
not
there.
a-
I'm
would
not
be
championing
ideal.
that, but, yeah.
So I see that, and we have varying widths of curb and gutter at places there too, so that,
Yeah.
but anyway, that.
Sorry, Nancy.
So I
know,
think really the only way to go is with the parallel if we go with it, yeah.
And I think seriously, if we've got to spend the time, the next 2 weeks, conversing with the business owners and people in that area. Because right now, I could foresee that as being very problematic for them.
Well, and having grown up in that area, we always took Plum on our bikes by the Public Works, is that what it
Yep,
is?
that's
Yep.
right.
To get to, because that's the one that's right adjacent to the pool. Of course, when I grew up, it was at the zoo, showing my age. But I mean, I think there's that option for access for children. But, so, I mean, this isn't, it's not like we don't have any access
Right.
if we end up keeping
And
the
it-
striping.
And there was quite a bit of planning that went into even the bike and ped master plan. There was, I guess, over 800 surveys that were returned. There was numerous public meetings and public input, and it was roughly in 2014. So it wasn't that long ago, but when this was all developed, to kind of
And I can understand why
keep us
we're
making a network.
trying to be beholden to the plan, but we're making very little progress with our plan as it stands. This is an opportunity. I consider it a fairly small bet. And again, I'm a proponent of public input, but I think we have an opportunity to make a decision, to be bold, and make a small bet. It's not a permanent,
Well, it's permanent until we do something.
until we do something different.
It's
So it could be,
permanent for, it's permanent
really
for about how many years?
I would consider it fairly permanent, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's
But-
permanent for, till the
And I would
next
hope
time
it would
you
be
redo
permanent,
it.
because I think it's beneficial,
Right.
and I think it would be a win. It might alter what we look at with the second and third phase of the bicycle boulevard. That may become unnecessary if we have an access point to get onto. I'm spitballing at that point, but I think we need to be mindful of getting the information to the contractor so they could do that. I can't offer a motion, so I can't do that, but I think this is an opportunity to be bold. We've had public input with the Strong Towns group that was through in October, and they'll be visiting again tonight. And these are the kind of messages I was hearing from them, was to try these opportunities to do different things. So for me, again, I would be willing to step out on a limb and do it. But
I'm inclined to agree with you, but I do want to say that I'm an advocate of Strong Towns philosophy, but there are a lot of people that are just punching in and punching out from their daily job at Tyson or some of these businesses that don't care at all about that. They just want to come to work. They want it easy. And we have to care about their opinions as well as the opinions that are in our own echo chamber. So I'm curious what the access to Cary Park from the east is with this current master plan. I mean, if a child were riding their bike, would they go up Plum? What does this master plan call for? Because Steve and David are offering an alternative, but I don't see a better one on this. Does that make sense, Jeff? Like what?
I think so. I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
I know that some of the things on there that aren't without challenges in the first place too.
Yeah.
So
Our master plan again reiterated, Parks and Rec master plan reiterated again and again and again that we have these amazing amenities, but we don't have connectivity to them for the people who actually live right by them.
There was also a number, I don't remember the percentage, but of children or whomever that are driven to their activities. 75% comes to mind or something like that. It was an alarmingly high number of individuals that don't go to their various activities because of inaccessibility. They have to be driven to there. This is, again, just another means to offer that. We talk about subsidizing the Salt City Splash, and one of the arguments I heard was improper placement of it in the first place. Well, we can't undo the fact that it's in Cary Park, but we might be able to make it a little more accessible to individuals. A bike and pedestrian path could help them. The sidewalks are there, but a bike path could potentially lend to that. It's cheaper than raising the splash and putting it in the middle of town. Again, I'm considering it a small bet. I keep using that same phrasing, but.
And again, I'm inclined to agree with you, but I think we would be remiss not to use the next few weeks to get input. We do have another meeting before this decision has to be made. That's just.
It's important.
I totally agree. I mean, this was the first opportunity after the thought occurring to me by talking with the city manager, and yeah, I have no problem holding off until making a final decision. I guess is there an interest among us to seriously consider this?
I don't know what the public's reaction. Only thing I can recall is just that a few years ago when North Main Street was under consideration, there was just an absolute human outcry. I can't believe the number of responses and the passion that people had of retaining Main Street as we know it today. And so I don't know if that filters all the way down to South Main or not, but I suspect there's a lot of opinions on change, and that's where some of the resistance likely will come from.
And we've all driven Main Street, and there's definitely a difference between North Main Street and South Main Street, and the lack of activity and things like that. Anything we could do to revitalize that area, take a chance, I would encourage.
But I think it's only fair to the business owners down there that they talk to before we dive off the deep end. So, I mean, I'm not in favor of voting to do it right now. 2 weeks, get some conversation, some feedback, and then we'll think about it.
You make it sound so dire. I don't think we'd be diving off the deep end.
Well, hey, you might. It depends on.
Yeah, you weren't on council in 2014. Woo-ha.
And really, to me, this is more of a conversation, not necessarily strong towns, but of our complete streets policy that we adopted years ago. This is really more of that conversation, in my opinion. And it talked about every time we're going to reconstruct a street that we evaluate it. This isn't really a reconstruction; it's a maintenance. But that's how 3rd Street, ended up with a road diet, and not 3rd Street, Avenue A. And there's still people that think that was the stupidest idea, but then there's people that think it's the greatest idea, and it's safer for the people that live there. But there again, parallel parking was already there, so there was no really change there. Going south, I know Tyson's will have issues with it, as well as some others, and I think it's only appropriate that we allow them the input like we allow input on all issues, and take that into consideration.
It's not that I don't value input. I'm just saying I'm not sure. I've got a lot of input. Again, it's moot for me. I can't offer a motion anyways. So.
Actually, the mayor can offer a
The
motion.
mayor's not, you're allowed to make motions.
It's just customary that they don't, but
Okay.
Bob
That's
Bush
valid.
offered the motion to name Orchard Banks Park.
Well,
and-
I'm feeling the temperature of the room anyways.
No.
Well,
No, don't be discouraged. I completely agree with you. I think it's a great idea. I think it's, our responsibility to hear from all parties.
I guess I would also then ask Jeff, is that adequate time to?
Well, we'll do what we can. I mean,
what we would do, and I think there's no action today other than direction, table this, and we'll do the best we can to get notification to every one of those business owners or building, some of those buildings are vacant, that this is what we're looking at. Essentially, their interest is we're going to eliminate your angle parking and reduce it down to parallel parking. That's really the issue.
And if you can live with it, then that's.
Yeah,
fine.
and there may be, nobody has a problem with it. I suspect there'll be some that will, and then it's up to you all to determine how important that is.
How are we going to reach these individuals, like you said, to get this information? Because I could see how Tyson arguably could have some input or whatever, but what about the vacant building?
That will be hard. I mean, we'll try to send a notice out, but I think
I'm not as concerned about people who aren't investing in their
I think-
properties.
I think the
Just
active
the lion's
businesses,
share of that street.
Yeah. the
Exactly.
active people.
So this
active
could
businesses
definitely-
will hand carry a note or a conversation.
Well, and I would encourage anybody who, does anybody watch this live stream? But anybody who's listening, if you're passionate on one side or the other, get yourself to next meeting.
Or let us know.
Or email or Facebook message.
There's a question in the back, Mr. Mayor.
What's that? Oh, please, if you wouldn't mind, approach. Thank you. I'm shirking my duties up here. I didn't see you waving back there. Come on up. Lavella.
Okay, well, I'm Lavella Kelly, and I didn't come for this, but I'm very interested in this. If someone will go back and look at the original Streetscapes project, the plan, I'm sure it exists somewhere in the downtown office. That plan was very similar to what you're talking about, to reduce the traffic on that street to basically to 2 lanes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you will talk to the people in the, like Smith's Market in that area, and ask them the benefits of the 2-lane in their area, and you will find out that it greatly increased business. And I had a business on North Main. Okay, at a certain time of the day, the traffic is so fast on that street, it's actually dangerous. And if you reduce that to the 2 lanes, like someone said, nothing's sold at 30 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also very dangerous. You can't cross that 4 lanes. An older person cannot cross 4 lanes safely. But the original streetscape plan did call for reducing that traffic. And, it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I would really be interested in seeing something like that occur. And just particularly at this point, since it doesn't involve a great deal of change in the structure of the
Road
streets.
base.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good input.
Well, John, if we're slowing down speed limits, that gets you on board, right?
That's right. I might also,
And we make sure we have metal light bulbs.
Yeah.
yeah, as long as there's a metal label. I'll offer it up to anybody else who might want to lend a thought to this, if there is anybody. Mr. Swear, okay. If you'll announce yourself.
Jackson Swear, 103 West 22nd. Just wanted to put in a plug for whatever you all decide to do on this particular project. I think getting some input from the business owners around there is important. I think this is a good reminder that with the Complete Streets policy, thinking about strong towns, we want to make sure that we're taking this sort of thing into consideration every time that we resurface a street, looking for these opportunities. It's not like we want to put a bike lane on every single road in town, but we do want to be considering these things. And I think that I also want to harken back to a point that Steve Deckent made there about it being a raceway. We've got these 2 lanes here. It's very easy to go very fast down, but I used to live in the Wiley building. There's a little bit of dragging main that goes on down there, and it's not clear to me that for commerce and for people who have business there that it's really necessary. So if there's a way to accommodate the parking concerns of Tyson's, while still narrowing the street and creating an opportunity for bicyclists. That seems like that's a win all around.
Mhm.
That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you for your input. Very good.
Well,
Yeah.
do we need a motion to table or just,
No.
just direction to staff?
We'll just put it on
Just-
the next
yeah.
agenda.
That's fine.
If you would do
So
so.
with the expectation that contact will be made with the property or business owners in the area and an opportunity for them to provide some input.
And the concept we're only talking about is the similar to Avenue A concept.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, my concept, yeah.
Thank
you,
you,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Well, another opportunity to take something that should have been simple and make it into a complicated mess, but that's what we're here for, I guess. So, very good. All right, next item.
Item 9, report of city officials.
Very good. Jade, I'll look your direction if you don't mind.
Thank you. I had one item. I was approached by some businesses in the compound area that all still have significant flooding in their lower levels, and I guess this is because of a raised water table. Heard several reports of residents as well still having flooding in their basements. Is there going to be, when aid is rendered to the community, how does that work? How would that disaster aid be distributed? Is that to the city or is it to individuals? They were inquiring, and I wasn't knowledgeable enough about it to respond.
I mean, it's not going to be to the city. It would be to individuals. I mean, the city would have our own claims, but I'm not sure it's getting to the value numbers that's going to dictate that there'll be funding to come back to individuals. Like in the ice storm, we received funding for that cleanup, but that would be on an individual basis.
So is it the responsibility of people who have damage to report those numbers to the city so they can be added into that? Or how does that,
No.
or are they reporting it to their insurance? How is that all added?
To interrupt too, I listened to a conversation on the radio on Sunday that the county was having, encouraging individuals to report damages.
Okay.
So I don't know how they're facilitating it, but they were encouraging folks to.
Because it is a county disaster.
Okay.
Claim, so it'd be to
Okay.
the
So maybe
county.
that's where.
Yeah, there was something on Facebook, and it was
As well.
reported to the county.
So do
There's
they
some
go through
form.
Gary Meager? Do they go through
I
David
don't
Combs?
have any idea, Jade.
Adam, maybe. Probably Adam, at emergency management. Adam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll reach out and get some contact
Yeah.
information.
But yeah, I'm not aware of how that decision, when that decision point is. And I recall in the ice storm, I mean, it was several months. You expend the money, and probably a year and a half later, we got reimbursed. I mean, it's a process.
But you don't think we're going to reach that threshold?
I don't know. Chief, have you heard?
I think they're there.
Okay.
Really?
There was 180-some people reported, business and homeowners, but it's through the county.
Yeah, and I think it depends on, the damage and where it came from, how, I don't know if it's strictly flood related, underflow, treated differently. You're the
Right.
insurance guy, you know how that works.
Well, right, and some of it's insurable and some of it's not, but I think what the county is looking for is any damage.
Right.
At least they can, and then they can divine what
Yeah.
counts or what doesn't, so to
Yeah.
speak.
So that would be probably to point them to that direction.
Great. Thank you so much. And that's all I had.
Okay. Steve, anything to add?
Just to repeat, this evening, 6 o'clock, Hutchinson Arts Center, continuing the conversation of strong towns. Open invitation to anyone and everyone who's at all interested. So hope to see a great crowd there this evening.
John?
Nothing this morning.
Nancy?
Nothing.
Okay. And again, the conversation this evening, hopefully it's good and well attended. I guess to the residents of Smallville, Kansas, or future residents at the end of this week, enjoy the con, enjoy the festivities, and then all that. City manager, anything?
Just a couple quick notes, and I know you haven't had time. I sent you out, I think just this morning early, some potential dates for budget study sessions. I've heard back from Jade already. Our plan, or my plan, is to deliver a budget on July the 2nd, which is basically just handing you the document, no formal presentation that day. And then we would start our study sessions on those potential dates. So look at your calendars and kind of let me know which dates wouldn't work, and we'll go from there. And typically, we would probably meet through the month of July with the goal of, approving our budget hearing date at our August 6th council meeting. And that would
Off
be
Tuesdays look good to me.
Off Tuesdays.
Anything except the 11th.
Yeah.
And I think I said anything except the 9th. I'm doing a
Right.
2-day training on stepping up
Off Tuesday.
council.
Okay. Anyway, we'll work on that, and that may be a moving target as we see how far we go. Yeah, so. And the only other thing I did, and I think I sent this out yesterday, was the report, Jade, you've been asking about, just to, show that from the code enforcement standpoint, and I think the numbers you got were to date in 19.
Yeah.
And you'll see a huge difference between 19 and 18, obviously. And basically just showing that, if I read the numbers right, that roughly 10% of all the complaints that we get end up in court. So a lot of those are, and I'm mixing everything in, property maintenance. It's not really just rental.
Right.
It's all property maintenance type
complaints.
things.
Everybody.
Yeah. Weed complaints.
John, I noticed that the ones, so there were, I think, 80, if I remember, I looked at it this morning, that went to court versus last year in that top
Right.
line. Why is it so many more this year? Is it just because the number of complaints have
Just the
gone
number.
up?
I mean, if you look at 18, just in that one section, in 19, we had 3,600 inspections, roughly. In 18, we had maybe 300.
Yeah.
I see.
And that was, the time frame between
Timeframe, the staffing.
everything and the staffing. And so it's all about having boots on the ground.
Volume.
Yeah.
Okay.
18 is really not a very good year to compare to. In fact, I had to double check with them that those numbers in 19 were really, that many. And but many of those are the rental side of things. So, but the picture is that, and I think that's where we had the conversation, that not very many of these complaints that are actually citations, whatever, end up in court. Most of them get the letter, property owner takes care of it, end of process. So it's actually a lower percentage than what I really thought it might be that end up in court. So.
John, I'm glad you put those together. Thank you very much. I was heartened to see that it wasn't that high of a percentage, but I'm wondering if, this is just an idea, the city can do anything to facilitate connections between people who are going through court. I'm talking on the resident side, not necessarily the landlord side, but maybe either, who are of low income, and connecting them with interfaith housing or somebody else. I guess my main concern is that people of very low income are ending up in court, and now they not only have to find a way to finance repairs on their homes which they couldn't afford or they wouldn't be in court, now they have to pay court costs. Is that a conversation I have with the housing commission, or?
Well, I think I think there's a lot of efforts, and even in our inspection side of things, that we tend to, people that actually communicate, will work them through a process. And, unfortunately, there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of programs out there that are going to, provide funding for these kind of things.
The CDBG grant, though, would be one if we could get some applications. I might encourage whoever you're speaking.
Jade, I've heard more than once members of inspection staff comment about their having conversations with people about interfaith housing or helping hands or other.
The paint program, yeah.
Now, is it a formality or is it a checklist form they go through? No, but that they have that kind of a conversation with people.
Yeah.
So, and if you're wanting something more formal, that isn't happening, but certainly on the informal basis, I'm fairly confident that conversation's occurring.
Okay.
If people are willing to hear it and have a conversation with the inspectors.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to focus on that and maybe ways of being better at that. But it's
I know
easy
they're
to
really
help people.
thin. They're really thin
Yeah, well,
staffed.
and
That's part of it.
Some people want to be helped, and we can help them through that, through that process. And some of these in court are, I suspect several of those are, landlord situations, and so.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, and that really is all I have, other than motion to adjourn into executive session
Including a small break, how much time would we would need?
Let's say 11:30.
Okay.
Okay.
I move to recess into executive session pursuant to the employer-employee negotiations exception of KSA 75-4319B3 in order to discuss issues related to 2020 contract negotiations with the city's bargaining units. The open meeting to resume in the city council chambers at 11:30.
Let's say 11:15, and then we can come out. I don't want to, because if we come out early, we got to wait, so.
At 11:15 a.m.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please call the roll.
Deckent?
Yes.
Dave Light?
Yes.
Soldner?
Yes.
Pyrus Dickarbolo?
Yes.
Kinski?
Yes. Thank you.